What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Red and Gold Standard Podcast. My name is Zach Hernandez, and as always, I am joined by my co-hosts Matt Llewellyn, our guy Tony, and Mike Andrews. We got a great show planned for you guys tonight. We will be recapping the Ravens 49ers Christmas night debacle and previewing the 49ers Commanders. Is it New Year's Eve? I believe that's New Year's Eve, right? New Year's Eve showdown. So without further ado, before I toss over to the guys, if you're tuning in on YouTube, make sure you hit like and subscribe. If you're tuning in on X, we can now see your comments. So make sure you actually comment in the X live chat so we can see them, and like and repost the stream because it helps more than you guys think. Now that I got all that out of the way, Matt, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Zach. Turn the page on that one. We're on to the next one. Good Christmas. Hope everybody else had a great holiday. Didn't end the way we wanted it to, but we're still here. So still number one in the NFC and on to bigger and better things, namely the number 32 ranked defense in the NFL.
Yeah, it is a nice get right game. Tony, it's great to have you on. How you doing tonight, bud?
Zach, what's up? Matt, Mike, thanks for having me on. Hello, everybody. Hope everyone had a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Yeah, we had a tough one this week. I'm glad to be on to be able to talk about it. We're going to cover a lot of things, and that's pretty much it. I'm excited to be here and grateful for the opportunity, guys.
Yes, sir. Mike, how you doing?
I am great. I want to say cheers to all the viewers. The last Thirsty Thursday of the year is here. There you go. And I'm doing good, man. You know, we got the loss out the way. We knew what that game meant heading into it. Absolutely nothing. But still doesn't mean it doesn't sting. We're gonna break all that down, and we'll talk about turn the page to this Washington team that is looking to make a statement of their own. It's gonna be a good one.
That's right. I hope everybody had, like Matt and Tony said, hope everybody had a Merry Christmas. Fantastic. I know it was spoiled to end it, but that's all right. I hope you had a great Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. You know, I was doing the math, and it's like for the next 4 years, Christmas is gonna fall midweek, and that's just gonna suck because then you got to work like Monday, Tuesday, and then you have the days off. It sucks, but it's all right. So this game was a perfect just amalgamation of Murphy's Law, and to me it felt like watching that NFC Championship game versus the Eagles last year. It was just like thing after thing after thing went wrong for the 49ers after a good start. Now granted, obviously the Eagles game went bad like that. This game, the 49ers, started off hot, got a 3-and-out, and then got the ball, drove the ball down the field, and then unfortunately Purdy throws an interception, doesn't see Kyle Hamilton sitting right there in the end zone. Matt, I'm going to start with you. How did you think of the 49ers? What did you think, of the 49ers start to this game Monday night?
It looked good right off rip. 3-and-out against a Ravens defense. It's been hard for the 49ers at times to get those 3-and-outs early. We always worry about the mobile quarterback. We always worry about the guy that can extend plays and kind of negate the defensive line. But they were able to get off the field early, give the ball over to the offense. A couple of chunk plays puts them right near the red zone. And then, an unfortunate decision by Brock Purdy. I know there's some questions about routes and concepts and things like that. At the end of the day, I think Brock Purdy needs to, recognize that safety, but nobody's perfect. He doesn't typically make that mistake. I think that, it was one of those where he had a couple chunk plays and then felt like being aggressive. So it's one you hopefully learn from, and one that, didn't cost the 49ers too much. Their very next drive, I believe they got a safety. So it was something that, it was a mistake, but you could build off of it. And, the 49ers kind of got the safety. They got a field goal later, kind of out to a 5-0 lead, and they looked like they were going to get right.
Yeah, they did. And I was fully under the belief that this game was about to turn around. The 49ers were about to take the lead, and they never really were able to catch up. Mike, we keep hearing this offense isn't meant to play from behind. It's not built to come back from a deficit. And then, of course, I'm watching the game at my mom's house with my family, and I hear the stat. I hear the dreaded stat. Kyle Shanahan is 0-38 in games where he has any deficit in the fourth quarter. And every time I hear that stat, I want to punch myself because it's just so frustrating. What do you think when people say that the 49ers simply cannot come back from being down?
I heard the stat incorrectly also because that's how they presented it during the game. But then I saw that it was when you're down 8 points. If he's down 8 points. So the Niners have had back and forth in the fourth quarter, and they have won games with Kyle Shanahan. But I also heard it the same way. That's not what they said on TV. And then you just see the 0-38, and I'm like, oh my God, here we go, right? But when the numbers actually all shake out, less than 20% games are won if you're down 8 in the fourth quarter, like in NFL history. So it's not that crazy. It's crazy that he doesn't have one, right? But it's not that crazy. I think it's a little bothersome when one of the brightest offensive minds in the NFL can't come back from that kind of deficit. But the offensive line started falling apart. We were losing weapons all over the place. People playing through injuries and all that stuff. No excuses. The Ravens did what they had to do. They held on to a lead. They were spotted. A couple of turnovers and things like that. So I felt like this is crazy. They have to score again. I just wanted the team to get another field goal because in all of the losses this year, the offense has only put up 17 points, and it's driving me absolutely crazy. I know the game finished with 19. I get it. But that safety was from the defense. I couldn't believe it was going to happen again. I'm like, come on, we got to get a field goal. They drove all the way down the field, and they didn't do anything. I'm like, oh, my God, here we go again. Turnover. So, it is what it is. The stars are aligned. The Niners put up more than 17 points. We're going to win. That's it. The magic number is 18. Remember a couple of years ago, the magic number was 30 rushing attempts. 30 rushing attempts, right? The magic number is 18 this year, guys. If we get more than 18 points, the Niners are going to win. If that's
It is weird. It is weird. 17. And then they got the safety. Tony, we had seen the Niners do somewhat of a good job keeping rushing quarterbacks, mobile quarterbacks in check. Jalen Hurts wasn't really able to do much. Kyler Murray didn't really beat them too much. And then Lamar happened, and it seemed like the 49ers defense, I don't know if they had a different game plan, if they felt like they could win differently. They were giving up the edge, losing contain. What did you think of how the 49ers defended Lamar's mobility?
I think their goal was to kind of attack it the way they attacked Jalen Hurts. And you saw them start off that way, but then once that lead started to build, you saw them just kind of just become aggressive and just start going. And once you do that, you're going to have lanes that just open up, and he's going to take advantage of it. And he did a couple times. And it's not even the one play he broke off for 35 or 40 yards or something. That was the one really big run that he had. But the majority of it was just getting to the line of scrimmage and creating an extra minute until a wide receiver showed his numbers and peeled off, and he would just make that throw and totally kill the 49ers defense. So I understand their rush concepts. I understand their game plan to try to make him a pocket passer, but when you're starting to build a lead when you're playing from behind, that's hard to do. You want to get back there and try to nail them, but they couldn't do it. And believe me, they had opportunities to. Chase Young had one. Jair Brown had two that he could have nailed them on a blitz off the slot, and they just couldn't get it. They couldn't finish the task. So, it is what it is. They tried it. It didn't work. Then they started playing from that behind notion, and they just became undisciplined, and it just opened up the lanes, and it cost them.
Yeah. Mike, do you have something to add?
Specifically with the mobile quarterbacks, we ran down all of them. I think the most was 46 or 49 yards, something like that, and it wasn't Jackson. So, as far as containing these mobile quarterbacks that used to gash the Niners defenses, I think those days are long gone. And it depends on how you want to credit it. I would like to think that Steve Wilkes has something to do with that. But it seems like they fixed that. No one's going crazy against the Niners as far as quarterbacks anymore, and that's really, really great to see. It's a step in the right direction. So I was at least I felt positive about that.
Yeah. And by the way, that run that Lamar had was 36 yards. That was his longest of the season, and he finished the game with only 45 rushing yards. So he didn't really do anything else. And you look at it, and let's be honest. Everybody's going to crown Lamar, and that's fine. And even I said, not because I believe he's the MVP, but because I believe that the mainstream media is going to make him MVP at this point, that he's probably going to be the league MVP. But was anything he did super impressive to me? Not really. The Ravens put up 30 points after getting 5 turnovers. against a team that probably won't turn the ball over 5 times in a game in the next decade. You won't see that again in the next decade. Lamar averaging 7.2 yards per attempt. A lot of that was just, run after the catch. People want to denigrate Brock Purdy for being run after the catch. It's not like Lamar was slinging the ball deep down the field. That's not what was happening here. Again, as Tony said, it was a lot of he's on his feet, making things happen, and finding a guy once he peels off. But at the end of the day, that to me is not a bad game plan for the 49ers. The 49ers had more passing yards, had more rushing yards than the Baltimore Ravens. If you take away even 3 of those turnovers, let's just cut the turnovers in half. They have 2 or 3 instead of 5. This is a much closer game, and we're not talking about Lamar Jackson as like this grandiose master of the quarterback position as everybody's trying to do right now. Not necessarily in, our circle, but, mainstream. They just can't get enough of Lamar Jackson. And, it is what it is. Flowers, kudos to you. You won, they won the game. But this game was closer than it had any right to be. That defense allowed friggin' Sam Darnold to throw a touchdown pass on him. So it is what it is. I think that the 49ers can just kind of like toss away a lot of this film, particularly the interceptions. There are some things to clean up, and I think that this is a perfect game, a microcosm as to why you put resources into the offensive line and not just let it rock. I know that Trent Williams went out. They stuck Colt McKivitz on the left side, and he immediately got beat. I'm done with Colt McKivitz. That dude is a bum. And when you sit there and when you pay 99-cent store prices, right, you're not going to get brand name. You're getting whatever the 99-cent store brand is, right? You're going to go for the 99-cent store mac and cheese. It's not going to be Kraft mac and cheese. It's going to be this garbage. It's going to taste like shit. It's going to look like shit. It's going to go down like shit. And these offensive linemen that they're finding in the 5th, 6th, 7th rounds, they're shit. They're shit. And they're not putting any resources into it. And you wonder why Brock Purdy, for the second game in a row, has to come out of the game with a stinger because nobody's protecting him. You wonder why Brock Purdy is sitting there looking fidgety and trying to get the ball out quick because you got a top 10 defense coming at him, and you got that Olay bullshit that Colt McKivitz is always doing. That, Banks has a toe injury. He's out. So what do you got? John Feliciano, who's picked up off the trash pile. If you stick trash in the game, if you have trash in your house is going to stink. Like, what do you expect?
We rent our recycling
resources
bottles
into the offensive line, and not just Trent Williams. Plain and simple.
Not all trash is created equal, Matt. I get that, but some of these guys are recyclables. Okay, let's not just call
Feliciano's
them all
all
trash.
right. Feliciano's all
Yeah,
right.
he's okay. He's okay.
All right. Listen, I'm focusing on Colt McKivitz because Colt McKivitz is like a bag of dog shit where the bag is torn.
So then, what was Burt for that right tackle when he came in?
You got to get rid of it as quickly as possible. And no offense to the man, I'm sure Colt McKivitz, the man, is fantastic. But in terms of NFL right tackles, you're dog shit, bro. I'm sorry.
Yeah. This game was so frustrating. And like I said to start the show, everything that could go wrong did go wrong. And I'm watching this game and I'm thinking the chances that, 1, your ball gets tipped is very low. 2, your ball gets tipped about 3 yards, 4 yards in the air is very much more lower than that. And the chances that ball gets tipped 3-4 yards in the air and there's only Ravens around there to catch it is even the lowest. And it happened 3 times. My mind was blown. Look, first interception, 100% on Purdy. Didn't see Kyle Hamilton, which, by the way, if anybody should have been talked about as MVP, it should have been Kyle Hamilton. That dude was the best player on the field the whole night, in my opinion. He was everywhere. I saw his lineup chart. He lined up in like 8 different spots. This dude is a baller. He should be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year, in my opinion. But that's a whole other story. I think the chances that the ball gets tipped, like I said, 3 times and only Ravens players are there to catch it is just insane. And I agree with Matt. I don't think we'd ever see that again from Brock Purdy, from the 49ers offense. It's so just, unique, fluky. Go ahead, Mike.
I think that we highlighted Kyle Hamilton as a chess piece during the preview shows. I think that the reason Ravens players were around is part of Kyle's scheme, right? Not that he got the interceptions on purpose, but once it gets past that section, all of the open field where the Niners players actually are, and now you're just blocking whoever is in front of you, is part of what we do really, really well. So if you get it over that first line of defense, then it's slim pickings for defensive players back there, and that's what makes our offense so special. So Brock's got to get him up a little bit more, and it's nothing, like you guys said, it's nothing that we're worried about. We gotta be honest here. It's nothing that we're worried about. But yeah, like you said, to start it all, Kyle Hamilton, definitely a top defensive player, and this a phenomenal young man. I hope that he heals up quickly, and he's going to have a great career in the NFL. He's really good.
Yeah, it really did seem like the Ravens had the answers to the test. Like, it seemed like they knew exactly what the 49ers were trying to do. And they were jumping routes all night. I mean, the Niners had 5 interceptions. They could have had 10. They could have easily had 10. Like, there were so many passes that the Ravens stepped in front of, bounced right off their chest, broken up with their hands. And it was really impressive to see from just like a defensive standpoint. But on the flip side, I was kind of hoping we would have seen some adjustments. I understand a lot of it was fluky, like I said, but we went away from the run very early. And I understand when you get down. I mean, I drove home at halftime, and from getting in my garage, coming up with the gifts, we went from down 8 to down 15, 16. I forget what the difference was. Out of nowhere, it's like 30 to 12. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, it was just 13 to 12 or something crazy like that. So the game switched literally in a matter of minutes. But early on, it really did seem like Kyle Shanahan wanted to come out passing. It was a very pass-heavy scripted plays. Matt, I'm going to go back to you. Do you think Kyle was trying to prove a point, saying Purdy is the MVP, and I'm going to show y'all he's the MVP. He's going to come out here because his scripted plays usually tells you what he thinks a defense's weaknesses are. How did you feel about that?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, man, Kyle's an enigma. I don't know what the hell he's thinking half the time. That dude just gets a bug up his ass and decides to do whatever he wants to do. So I don't know if you can read too much into it, because the Ravens are really good against the run. They're really good against the pass by all statistical measure. I think that's somewhat softened by a pretty bad AFC North, but I don't know. I don't think he was necessarily like, oh, let me go get the MVP, because when he had an opportunity to get Christian McCaffrey a touchdown to extend, to get him the record, he was like, oh, I forgot. So or he was like, I can't remember what it was. He was like, oh, I wasn't game planning just to get a guy a touchdown. I didn't realize until late. And then when I tried, they like, whatever the case was, he didn't get Christian McCaffrey his touchdown when he had opportunity to, and feed him the ball like everybody wanted him to. I just think he does his own thing. I don't really think that he was thinking about I can have Brock Purdy come out here and solidify MVP if I just let him throw the ball 8 times. We've seen them run drives where, gosh, it was just I can't remember which game it was. I think it was the Philly game where it was the back shoulder to Debo, and that was the only pass on that drive. Every other play on that drive was a run. So sometimes he just feels like doing what he's going to do, and I don't know that we can really take a lot out of that.
Okay. All right. Tony, the 49ers finished 1-3 versus the AFC North. Do they just not match up with them? Are they just more of bullies than the 49ers are? Do you take anything away from that at all? Or do you think that's just how the cookie crumbled when it was all said and done?
I mean, I think, listen, I don't know what the hell happened with them with the AFC North. All right. These teams just came up with defensive game plans, from Schwartz, from the defensive coordinator to the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't know his name. And the coach for the Ravens, I think his name is McDaniel or McDonald. Mm-hmm. He had a hell of a game plan, and they executed well. I just don't know why they have their struggles versus this specific 3 teams. I'm watching it now, and I got to be honest with you. I kind of feel like this was the Super Bowl for the Baltimore Ravens, like the way they're acting on the sidelines, on the field, and stuff like that. So I just feel that they were really, really, really up for this game. And another sidebar note is Jim Harbaugh, what happened with John Harbaugh, what happened with Jim Harbaugh in San Francisco. I'm sure he just wanted to just prove a point, saying that, I'm a Harbaugh, I'm coming in here to kick your you know what. But I just feel, and I said this to Mike before the game, I said, I just got a funny feeling about this game. And the way Kyle came out and with his script that's supposed to be like, the bread and butter, the fully 50-50 split balanced attack, it was nothing like that. Nothing at all. It was so far different than what it normally was. And if it was, another thing that I noticed with Kyle in this game, he tried to run the offense with when Jawan Jennings is on the field the same way without Jawan Jennings, but implementing a Juice, implementing a Warner to try to run the same system without Jawan Jennings. Now, you're seeing a lot of like stacked looks to the left when they do that toss off the left side and they just crack down. Trent hooks out and picks up the backside linebacker coming across the formation. And they're doing it with Warner. They're doing it with Willie Snead. Like I said to Mike, I said this on Twitter, I honestly think this offense missed Jawan Jennings a lot more than what people realize and what he brings to this offense as a threat. Because they can go three wide, they can go with the three personnel, three wide receiver sets, and they can still run with it as long as they have Jawan Jennings on the point of a bunch, on the top of the bunch formation to that side, because he's that physical of a blocker, but he's also that threat as a wide receiver, and he just brings that mentality. So, Baltimore had an excellent game plan. They executed. They played their game, like they played the game of the year for that team. Now, I don't know if it's just, I guess the whole NFC North took it that way except for the Steelers. I don't know. But I was really, as a Kyle Shanahan ultra fan, I was shocked the way he went out because the tell-all tale is when they needed to score, they went right down the field riding on McCaffrey's back. Right down the field and they scored with no issue. Yep. But then it stopped. So was he trying to see how they would react, see what they would do, and then it just got to the point where they just got so far behind? That was it.
Mike, before you go, great one. I see your comments here. What's so hard to admit? Purdy's the reason for this loss. Stop blaming Kyle. You really need to stop blaming the defense and stop blaming the O-line. Purdy threw all 4 interceptions before Trent got injured. Now you're making an excuse we ain't have the 4th best wide receiver on the team. I can't. There's way more that goes into a game, 1. And 2, if you want us to just say Purdy's the reason for this game, then we could have a 5-second show and end it there. But the game's a whole hour long, and there are multiple factors that go into a loss. Like, I don't understand. If you just simply want to hear Purdy threw the game away, sure. Purdy's 4 interceptions are the main reason the 49ers lost this game. But there's a lot of context that goes into those interceptions, so it's kind of just very level.
I would also say this: interceptions 3 and 4 were because the O-line didn't hold blocks. So 3, he was flushed out of the pocket and tried to make a play, and 4, they didn't block, and he got his arm hit. So there is some blame to go to the offensive line. I don't think anybody's blaming Kyle for the game plan. I think that we're just looking at it like trying to break down what he was thinking. And I don't think anybody here mentioned the defense. I think the only reason the way we mentioned the defense was that they actually did a solid job containing Lamar Jackson and what they wanted to do. It's just that 5 turnovers makes that almost impossible. Mm-hmm. I specifically said, if you only get 30 points off of 5 turnovers, your offense ain't that good. So I don't know, man. If you want to blame Brock Purdy, that's all you. Join the line, okay? Be a fucking lemming, walk to the cliff, jump off with every other asshole out there. I don't care. If that's what you want to do, I'm here for it. I'm here for you. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you. I respect your opinion, even though I disagree. Because I think it's just real easy to watch the stats and look at the stat line and be like, oh yeah, Brock Purdy didn't play bad. Take those 4 interceptions out, and Brock Purdy was 18 of 30 for 255 yards. And nobody's going to be mad at that. That's not a bad stat line. It was certainly more efficient than what Lamar Jackson's stat line was, right? 252 on 35 attempts or whatever it was. So the turnovers obviously played a part. but it wasn't just Brock Purdy. We've all said that the first one was definitely on him. That's 100% a fact. But even, you look at Kyle Shanahan, his own coach is being like, yeah, man, that's bad luck. And you'll never find another game like this where the quarterback has 4 interceptions. By the way, I just want to put this out there. Tom Brady, including his 2004 MVP season, threw 4 interceptions 6 times in his career. So miss me with that shit. And if you really want to take it a step further, Christian McCaffrey, 14 carries, 107 yards, I think, and a touchdown, and they lost. But he's the most valuable 49er, I thought. That's what everybody who hates on Brock Purdy is saying. How come every time that the 49ers have lost, Brock Purdy hasn't played his best? What does that tell you? That tells you it's a quarterback-driven league, and when Brock Purdy plays well, the 49ers win, often by double digits, often by 2 or 3 scores. So you do you, man.
Mike, I had cut you off. What you were going to add on to what Tony was saying?
That was great. Yeah, no, I just think that the Ravens defensive plan, you asked like what it was about the AFC, and like you said, Shanahan doesn't have a winning record against Schwartz, but this game in particular, one thing that I noticed is for the last 3 years, all we've heard about is Shanahan's offense and the motion and what it does to people and it puts them in conflicting spots and all that stuff. The Ravens did not care at all about motion. These guys were as flat-footed as they were from the time they broke their defensive huddles. I have never seen a team not respond to motion at all. And we can say that, motion's not a big deal and all that stuff. It is pivotal in football, which is a game of inches. We talked about the tip balls just hitting off of someone's hands and going up in the air the right way and all that stuff, and why these guys were around. They weren't responding to motion. They kept their feet in cement until after the snap, and that tells you a lot about what they were determined to do in this game. We are not going to let them dictate what we're going to do on defense. It's going to be the other way around. They're going to have to take what we give them, and they challenged the Niners. So kudos to them. I thought it was a solid game plan. We talked about were the Eagles exposed, and after the Niners beat them, right? I mean, Buffalo kind of put it out there. Niners executed it, and then they go on to lose 3 consecutive games, right? I am worried. Not so much about these last 2 games, but particularly about what's going to happen in the postseason when teams say, hey, we're going to go back to that Ravens game. What did they do well? In the postseason, this is going to be the game that they study, and they're going to say, hey, don't bite on the motion. Don't bite on the motion. I saw you, Tony. Good.
I listen, I understand what you're saying. It's a valid point, but I honestly feel watching this game twice now, I don't think there was as much motion as there normally is in their regular games. Like, they motioned, yes, but it was just a basic motion from left to right or from right to left, or McCaffrey from flex next to the quarterback straight out to the right. And I honestly feel like the playoffs are different. Like, it's no holds bars in the playoffs. It's win or you go home. And I think Kyle will have a different mentality. And I think the mentality, what we saw versus the Cowboys, versus Philly, versus all the teams that along the line that the Niners just continued that streak with, was a different mentality than what we saw on Christmas night. It was different. Like, there wasn't that balanced attack. There wasn't that run it down your throat. I understand the injuries sustained to the offensive line, but that was in the latter part of the game. But you just didn't see that creativity. And I think it's because of Jawan Jennings. I think it's because they knew if they lost this game, it's an AFC opponent. It's an AFC opponent. If it comes down to a tiebreaker, the Niners have that lead on a tiebreaker versus Dallas, versus Philly, versus whoever it is. So I feel like if there was gonna be a game to lose, it was gonna be this one. And the way they played and the way he called it, it kind of said it. Like, our backs aren't against the wall. Now, going forward, it's different. Now it's pedal to the metal. It's all about business, and that's it. And like I said earlier, as far as the point I made about it looked like they won the Super Bowl. OBJ and Flowers dancing on the sideline, doing like the kid and play thing. Like, they were jumping all over the field, taking pictures, performing CPR on the football, putting the things in the bag like the Grinch and running off the field. When the Niners are blowing teams out 42-something, they don't do that. Like, they don't do that. It's business. It's get on the field, do what you got to do, get off the field, and go home. Yeah, they run down, they pose in front of the thing with the camera. Yeah. But it's not that extra bullshit. It's like you see a team that's focused and that's here for business, and then you see a team that's like, yeah, we beat the Niners. Yeah. There were two different teams. When the Niners are on their A game compared to what Baltimore looked like on Christmas night. Now the question is, did Baltimore show their hand? That's the question for playoff implicate when it comes to playoffs and tape study.
Just addressing the chat real quick. I keep seeing just like, if Jimmy did this, can we stop with the Jimmy 1 and 2? Yeah, I think it's totally fair to hold a quarterback that you made the highest paid player in the NFL ever at the time of his extension. Hold him to a little bit of a different standard than to hold your first year as a starter quarterback making $800,000 a year to a little bit of a different standard. Like, we're talking about Jimmy in like his 6th season in the NFL, getting paid. I don't even know how much he was getting paid a year, 28 million at the time, 30 million at the time. Like, there's differences here, and we don't judge a quarterback based off of one game. Like, I posted this because I'm tired of seeing it. If you're telling me a dozen of really good to great games by Brock Purdy aren't enough to call him a good quarterback, why is one bad game enough to call him a trash quarterback? It's not enough either way.
I don't know. I'm reading the chat, and it makes me think that it's kind of ironic that the 49er fans are known as the faithful. And I'm telling you, one bad game that you can't even take a lot out of because it's a once-in-a-decade type of bad performance. Dude, y'all are the faithless. You guys are hyperbolic, overreacting. Bro, like, they're still number 1 in the NFC, and people are acting like they're just trash now. It's wild to me. And then you got other people that are like, ass pumping themselves over Lamar Jackson in the chat. And listen, you could do that if you want to, dude. Like, but the fact of the matter is he's like 24th in passing yards. He's like 19th in touchdowns. The Ravens won by 11 points in a game where the 49ers had as many injuries as you could possibly even fathom to stand, and as many turnovers. Like, when's the last time the 49ers had 5 turnovers in a game?
Week 3, we were all there.
Oh, the Steelers game. The Steelers game in 2019.
Versus the AFC North.
Versus the AFC North.
Hey, Zach, just one thing.
They won that game.
Zach, real quick, you asked me a question about the AFC North and the 49ers. Who was in the Super Bowl last year for the AFC?
Who was it? Oh,
Cincinnati.
The Chiefs. 2 years ago, Cincinnati.
All right, so 2 years ago was Cincinnati. Last year was the Chiefs. Chiefs are having a down year.
Yeah.
All right. If Burrows didn't get hurt, I think Cincinnati's in contention as well. Baltimore's a good team. Kyle doesn't do well versus Jim Schwartz for some reason, and Pittsburgh is Pittsburgh. They beat Pittsburgh. They struggle versus those 3. But is it coincidence that those are the only 3 teams, minus the Minnesota Vikings, because of what happened in that game, whatever, that they only had a problem with? And what I'm trying to say is, I honestly feel because they knew what this team was about and they knew how they could go through the NFC maybe, that they didn't want to show their hand versus those teams. That's what that's what I think in my head.
Well, it was definitely an unusual game plan. And, I know we're going to move on soon, but just 23.5% rushing attempts. The most unbalanced Kyle shit. And in a game that Christian McCaffrey for most of the game was averaging over 8 yards a carry. Just let that sink in for a second. Christian McCaffrey is averaging over 8 yards a carry. And up until they scored the second time in the third quarter, it was a one-possession game. There was no need to abandon the run. It just showed that Kyle was trying to do something different. What he was trying to do, I don't know. Zach asked the question, did he want Purdy to hey, this is the MVP? Part of me feels that way. I'm going to say yes. I know other people won't say. I'm going to say yes. I think Kyle wanted to show my guy can go out there and sling it with the best of them. I do think that.
What if it's the old Jimmy G thing, right? Wasn't there a stat going around in like 2019 or whatever? The drive after Jimmy G throws a pick, it's like a touchdown or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe Kyle's just trying to keep Brock Purdy confident, right? Let's wipe that shit off the books. We'll go to the next one. But I don't think anybody outside of the most doom and gloom 49er faithless or the biggest Baltimore Ravens homer can look at this game and be like, if both teams played up to their potential, that the 49ers wouldn't waffle stomp this team by 10 to 14 points.
Yeah.
If the 49ers played up to their ability, this would not have been a close game. I was not impressed by anything that Baltimore did outside of the defense being very athletic. The defense was very athletic and in the right spots at the right time. But on the opposite side of the ball, nothing Baltimore's offense did impress me one bit. You got old broken knee OBJ out there doing a little bit, what have you. But outside of Lamar Jackson being an incredible athlete, like, what do they got? They don't have anything. So I think if they played again, which I hope they do in the Super Bowl, then Lamar Jackson can take his regular season MVP and shove it up his ass, because there's only one MVP that I care about right now, and that's Super Bowl MVP. So Brock Purdy can go win that.
Matt has a thing with butts tonight. He said something about butt pumping earlier, and I have no idea what that means. He gives me something every time we're on.
That is fucking hilarious, bro.
Okay. Sorry, guys. This beer here is a 9.4% double IPA. So forgive me.
Nice.
I'm having a bottle of wine every time I open one of these things, essentially.
Last two things on this, they'll move on to the Commanders game. This guy is just so pressed that we're not calling Purdy bad. He had his worst game. Like, I don't know how else we could say that. He had his worst game. He made a lot of poor decisions, trusted his arm way too much that he actually should have. But saying what happened when he threw an interception isn't making excuses. That's like getting in a car accident and being like, well, that guy ran the red light. I don't want to hear it. You got in a car accident, didn't you? I don't want to hear he ran a red light.
That's a point on your record.
Yeah, you're just explaining what happened. Like, his elbow gets hit as he's throwing the ball. That's context. It's not that much of an excuse just to point out what happened.
I don't think anybody was here saying after this game Brock Purdy's still the MVP.
No, we all agreed
for MVP.
Yeah.
None of us have said that. It was a bad game. Absolutely, was a bad game. But you have to look at it in that light. That some of this stuff just happens. Some of this stuff is bad luck. But at the end of the day, the 49ers lost. That's great. But I'm coming at it from the perspective of if these teams played again, I think that the outcome would be completely different. Because the 49ers will not play a game this fucking bad in the next decade.
He's right. Brock Purdy's bad. Brock Purdy's going to have, by the end of the season, and I spoke about this with Mike, he's going to have for over 4,500 yards throwing. He's going to have one wide receiver, potentially a second wide receiver, a tight end, and a back to go for 1,000, 2,000. So how bad is Brock Purdy? That's what I just don't understand. Yes, he had a bad game, but if you followed Brock Purdy's career, he's had a game like this at Iowa State. Okay, and guess what? Brock Purdy was drafted the last pick of the draft. Brock Purdy turned into the quarterback that he is. It happens. Brady, all these quarterbacks, Peyton Manning, all have bad games. That's fine. It's how you respond. All right. He had a bad game early in the season. He went on a tear. He had his bad game on Christmas. He's going to go on a tear again. Yeah. So to sit here and say he's not good, but have multiple weapons, your whole personnel grouping basically on your base offense, minus Juszczyk to go for over 1,000 yards, plus a running back for over 2,000 yards between rushing and receiving, that's not a bad quarterback. I'm sorry.
Not at all.
Well, here's the thing, and I'm gonna bring this up because I'm getting called out. Gray wants to see what he says about Lamar is all they have. Just made my point. Lamar carries the Ravens. Without him, they ain't nothing. That's a real MVP. The 49ers had 2 100-yard receivers against the Ravens and Christian McCaffrey, who ran for over 100 and averaged 7.4 a carry. Who played bad? Brock Purdy. What did the 49ers do? They lost. So if you have every other player on the team play good and the one guy plays bad and then they lose, isn't that kind of the same thing? If Lamar Jackson played terrible, would the Ravens win? No, they'd lose, even if other players played well. So you're talking in a circle. You're making the same point without even knowing it. So I don't know.
And this is hilarious too. I've never said he was bad. I said he had a bad game. You want to stroke him when he wins, so hold him accountable for his bad play. What does holding him accountable look like? What do you want me to do personally? Do you want me to go buy his jersey and burn it? Like we've all agreed he played poorly. We said it was his worst game. It's like the people that were like, Kyle and John need to be held accountable for trading picks for Trey Lance. What do you want me to do?
Watch the tape. Watch the tape. Dude, you know what? Some people have said it online, and I totally agree. I've never seen some people root for an underdog or root against an underdog so much until Brock Purdy. Like, watch the tape. The first interception absolutely was on him. The second interception, hell of a play by the defensive back. That's just a hell of a play. By the way, Joe Flacco threw a pick six tonight on an exact same concept, right? A jailbreak screen, essentially, that the defender was in the way. Joe Flacco tried to pump him up in the air like twice, and he still tipped it and picked it and took it back. And that was a linebacker, let alone a defensive back. The second pick, I mean, that one, you know, what are you going to do? Like that's that tip on. That happens. That was a design play. If you want him to do the Peyton Manning and throw at the dude's feet, I guess you can do that. I guess in hindsight, you can say that. The third pick, I've seen people saying, dude should have realized that the flag was out there. He shouldn't have thrown across his body. We've seen him throw across his body. And he threw it to George Kittle. And George Kittle does what George Kittle does sometimes that I absolutely hate. George Kittle does not catch the ball with his hands. He lets that shit come into his body. And he did in this situation here, and it bounced off of his shoulder pad and went up in the air, and it was another tip. If George Kittle puts his hands out in front of him, at worst, the pass is knocked down, let alone it might have been completed. And then the fourth one, your line doesn't give you a block, and your arm gets hit when you throw the ball. So what am I supposed to hold Brock Purdy accountable for? The fact that George Kittle likes to catch the ball at his body? The fact that Colt McKivitz is a turnstile? The fact that he's trying to make plays that he's made before, prior. Nobody had a problem when he threw that pass to Deebo Samuel, outside of us who actually criticized it week 1 against the Steelers, where he threw back across his body. Or against, I can't remember who it was, but he hit another one to George Kittle across his body, down near the goal line.
He did that twice in a row against the Bengals. And we were all like, don't do that.
What are we going to hold him accountable for? He didn't play well. That's fine. But you can't just say, oh, these 4 turnovers were his fault. That's looking at the box score. That's not actually watching the game.
Yeah.
Like he's gonna have bad games. Every quarterback does. Like I said, even Brady had 6 games where he threw 4 picks.
It happens.
It happens.
Joey,
but otherwise, he's playing this is one of the best quarterbacking seasons in 49ers history. And I feel like I can't even fucking enjoy it because everybody's just complaining about how bad Brock Purdy is all the time and looking to I feel like I have to defend him rather than just sit and watch and enjoy what I'm seeing. He's going to finish as the 49ers all-time single-season passing yards leader.
In his first season. In his first season as passer.
His first season as
This is why we can't have nice things, because everybody likes to overanalyze shit. And rather than, you got to hold them accountable. I'm not going to micromanage a player that I don't even know personally. At some point or another, I want to be a fucking fan. I don't know about you guys, but I like to enjoy the games. When the game's over and it's done and we're not doing this show and stuff, I like to do other things because I have a life. If you need to sit there and break down every minutia, all 22 on Brock Purdy, that's your thing, dude, but that's not me, and you're not going to get that from me.
I think it's about presentation. Brock Purdy had a bad game. I think we all agree with that. Now, what contributed to it? Maybe if we said it that way, maybe if that's how we started it, maybe the reception would be a little different with what we're I don't know. But this is why I'm on full screen and not reading the chat until you guys pop something up on the screen. I refuse. I can't do it on this show. I can't do it. I refuse to do it.
What's funny too is like he literally had a perfect passer rating game. He's had multiple 3 touchdown, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions game. And I've never seen you in here praising him. Like you said, we love to praise him and call him the next great thing when he plays well, but we don't hold him accountable. Well, we do both. Like we've clearly talked about how poorly he's played when the 49ers have lost, which is funny because a lot of people like to put the 3 losses on him. People don't remember he threw for like 350 yards against the Bengals and 2 touchdowns. Like, yeah, he made a couple of bad mistakes, but overall he played well other than the Cleveland game and in spots of Monday night against the Ravens. And yeah, Joey shared it here. In his first full season as starter, he's going to break the 49ers passing yards record and be the first 49ers quarterback to throw for 30 touchdowns. But let's just act like he's just another plug and play piece.
That latter part is not true. I think Steve Young had 36
since 2001. Sorry, since 2001.
Oh, okay. I see. No, that's absolutely true. And listen, look around the league. Quarterbacks make mistakes. Josh Allen has 3 games out of 15 where he hasn't thrown an interception. 3 out of 15. Like, dude, it happens. If you want Brock Purdy, man, how many times did people complain about Alex Smith never tries to push the ball? Alex Smith isn't aggressive. Alex is just a game manager. Alex is this. Alex is that, right? Do you want him to not be aggressive? And not in the idiotic, I can't see the field, I'm slow to process the defense, Jimmy Garoppolo way. I'm talking in the, he does what he can with the arm that he's got, and he's throwing anticipation, throwing with anticipation and trying to make plays type of thing. If you want to cut that out of him, then you're not going to get an effective quarterback. That's not who Brock Purdy is going to be. There are going to be games where he makes mistakes. That's just how it is. But you can't tell me that he hasn't been a much greater force for the 49ers this season than he has been a detractor. Yeah. If you think that, you're just simply not paying attention.
And this is just proof of that, because he says, I heard you say Jennings, our 4th best wide receiver, is the reason he played bad. You're clearly not listening, because that's not what Tony said. Tony was explaining why the offense wasn't clicking as a whole, why certain plays weren't working. He never said Jennings not being there is why Purdy threw 4 interceptions.
And it's conceptual, right? I mean, just last week, they made the big deal about the helmet for the pancake blocks. And whose name is all over that helmet? Juwan Jennings.
Yeah.
He's a part of the offense, whether he's in the stat sheet or not. And I think that was speaking to more of what Tony was saying. Is that you can't run the same concepts with the same effectiveness without Juwan Jennings that you can with him, and that does play a role. It's the same thing when they lost, I think it was the Minnesota game where that was the second loss, right? Mm-hmm. Or was the Browns lost the second?
No, Minnesota.
So they were trying – so Debo in the Browns game got injured, had the shoulder, right? The next game, they're running – was it Ray McLeod that they were trying to do Debo plays with? And it's not the same person.
No.
And it was evident that those plays were not going to work because it wasn't the same. And at the time, I was like, put Ronnie Bell in there if you want to do a more physical guy, because Ronnie Bell's way more physical than Ray McLeod. It's you run your concepts how you run them. And if somebody's out, Kyle Shanahan's not going to redesign the entire offense because Juwan Jennings out. That's not what we're saying. It's that some of those things aren't going to be as effective because Juwan Jennings excels at certain things, namely blocking. So...
Also, throwback here. Don't forget Patrick Mahomes had a bad game against the Raiders. The same day.
We just watched Patrick
literally
Mahomes.
The same day. Throw the game away, play like shit.
Yep.
And he's, the highest paid $500 million quarterback, multi-time MVP. Like,
lost to Officer Farva from freaking Super Troopers.
And again, what does holding a quarterback accountable look like to your eyes? Do you want us to come up here and sit and talk for an hour about how Purdy needs to be better? I'm not his coach. I don't have his number. Do you want me to get his number and text him? Like, what does a fan podcast holding a player accountable look like to you? I'd love to know. Because other than us saying what he did wrong and why we think he did it wrong, there's literally nothing else we could do. So with that said, I think we're going to go ahead and move on with the show, because there's just a lot of nonsense coming out of this commenter. With all due respect, which is none, but a little bit. Let's get on to this Commanders game.
Opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one, and most of the time they stink. So
he's back to butts.
If wishes and butts were candies and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. So.
All right.
Cheers
all
to
that. Cheers. And look, great one. It's all for good fun and debate. I appreciate you tuning in, even if we disagree about basically everything.
For sure. It wouldn't be fun if we just went, oh, we respect your opinion, sir. Thank you for commenting. Of course, we're going to turn it into a little bit of a debate, but it's nothing personal.
I missed a super chat earlier from 49ers Throwback. Micah Parsons wants to be a Niner so bad. Let's get into this a little bit. During the game, Parsons.
Oh, God.
Yeah, got shootout. Posts on X. You know, wow, they're down 21 points and we're not seeing any deep shots or any developing routes downfield. That should tell you all you need to know. This is the same clown, mind you, a couple weeks. I'm seeing clips of him saying, Purdy, you will be slept on no more. Yeah, I got you up there with the greats. I'm not disrespecting you no more, Purdy. Micah, you're a pass rusher. What does that tell you if a team cannot throw down the field, cannot have developing routes? The first thought in your mind is their offensive line can't hold up for probably longer than 1.5 seconds. They cannot trust. Jadeveon Clowney looked like he was 21 years old. Like he was out there just abusing the 49ers offensive line. Whoever the hell he was out there against, I saw him getting in the backfield within half a second. It was insane what the Ravens defensive line was able to do to the 49ers offensive line. And we've been screaming this from the rooftops since the offseason, since the draft, when the 49ers neglected to spend even one pick on this offensive line. So it was ridiculous. But Mike, I'm going to throw it to you. What did you make of Micah Parsons' comments? Why the hell is this man so obsessed with the 49ers? What's going on?
Yeah, I can't tell what the well, I do know what the obsession is. There was a lot of smack talk heading into the game. And I think that the Niners players kind of just literally just LOL'd him, right? They didn't do a whole bunch of afterwards. Like there wasn't a ton of gloating or anything like that. It was just the LOLs like, all right, it's over for you, right? And so he took it to heart, and he's been waiting for the downfall of the Niners since then. And this is the first loss. This was the worst loss, so on and so forth. But as a defensive player, I mean, I would think that Micah Parsons would look at the opposing team being down 21, and he would start licking his chops like, oh, I'm about to feast now, because now they have to pass. Now they have to do this. And there should be no time for deep developing routes down the field, right? Like that should be his mindset. It was a stupid comment to make. And that's what you do for a living. Like you, as a pass rusher, should salivate when you see your team is up by 2 or 3 scores, and you say, oh, now it's my time to go out there and really get paid. Here's where I earn my incentives. Here's where I get my bonuses, right? For him to go out there and just start saying that, it's like, dude, like what are you new to just NFL? Forget, and like, are you new to football? This is what all teams do. When they get up big like that, they feast on the offensive line. They send extra pressure. They'll send 6 instead of 4 or 5. Like they just do that all the time. I don't know why he was so baffled by what he was seeing, and to put it out there, like so everyone could see it. Just it spoke volumes about the mindset, and like it was just haha, someone got you. It wasn't us, but haha, someone got you. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. It's just weird. It's tongue in cheek, and it's like it was celebrating someone did something we couldn't do. And it was hoping for a blueprint to be put out there. I hope we see you guys in the playoffs. Skip Bayless is going to say it for him. You know what I mean? But it is absolutely weird how he's constantly, I mean, talking about the Niners. I mean, he's got the Niners nuts in his mouth more than a squirrel. I've never seen anything like this before. And this is going to happen a lot more. Let me be clear. With all these sports, all these players having podcasts and all that now, and you're talking about the top 2 teams playing, you're going to see it, but the bad takes are just bad takes. Like it's one thing to talk about us. It's another to have a terrible take like that. They're down 21 and there's nothing going on downfield. How? Like, why? Why should that be happening? So it was just weird.
Not only that, but right after a week removed from your quarterback getting smacked, like you guys had 3 points for most of the game. But I liked Gronk's comments on it on the Up and Adams show. I'm gonna play this clip here. Let me make sure the screen is working with us. Okay. This is credit to Up and Adams.
And he says down 21 and there are no shots or development throws. Should tell you all you need to know. Is Micah, is this okay to do?
Okay. It's really weird that he's tweeting that out there. First, there's a saying out there: losers focus on winners and winners focus on winning. And if you want to be a winner, you just got to focus on winning. It's really, really weird because in this case, though, Micah Parsons is one of the best defensive players in the league. He might win Defensive Player of the Year this year. But on top of it, it's a team game. It doesn't matter how good you are as an individual. It matters about a team. And it's weird that he's tweeting that after a loss versus Miami in Miami. And then he's tweeting that about a team that absolutely dismantled the Cowboys when they played them this year. So it's just weird to me because he's an outstanding player and he's doing his thing this year. But you're worried about the San Francisco 49ers and you're tweeting about them. I really don't know what else to say besides it's a weird situation. I really don't know how to break it down from there.
So genuine.
That's facts.
Yeah. So genuine. It's just weird. Like it's just straight up weird. And I really don't know what else to say.
Dude, Rob Gronkowski is the type of dude. He was so good at football that I remember a route that he ran. It was against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he caught like a fade route, and he cooked the DB off the line so bad that he pointed at him and laughed before he spiked the ball. Yeah. Like this dude, he's a winner. He's got a ton of Super Bowl rings. And so if anybody's going to talk about, hey, winners focus on winning, it's going to be him. Yep. And I also think that it's kind of corny that he's talked about the 49ers every single week. Like he is obsessed with them. Like when, it's like when you get together with your boys, right? And you got that one single friend that's caught up on this girl that's kind of like friend zoned his ass, but she's like really good looking and he can't stop talking about her. And you guys are everybody in the group is just like, dude, can we not talk about this anymore? That's what this is like. It's just completely, I'm with Gronkowski. It's completely baffling to me. I don't understand why he's so obsessed with it.
I have never heard Gronk speak other than a commercial. And then that New Year's Day with Steve Harvey, where he spiked the Harvey bust, right? I didn't know that. Like, I don't know how to say it without insulting him because he was on our side, and I shouldn't. But like, I didn't know that he could do that. That's what I'll say. I didn't know that he could do that. Like I just thought like, oh, football, get ball, catch ball, run. Like that's Gronk. I mean, everything says like his favorite toy is a rock. Like I just don't know. Like that's always been my impression of him. Like I just thought he was like this physically gifted Neanderthal. I'm sorry. And so like just listening to him speak and not be like playing a character was actually pretty good. So shout out to Gronk for that. That was supposed to be a compliment, I swear.
The one thing that I've heard about Gronk is that he was really, really, really smart with his money and his investments and stuff. So that he's like all set in retirement. That's one of the things that like all of his teammates have said. Dude was really good with his money. Dude was really good with, putting stuff away and, diversifying and all this stuff. So yeah, he definitely played that party boy role while he was in the NFL, but there's definitely depths that most people don't get to see. But I understand what you're saying, Mike.
Great one says Debo needs to stop talking too because we haven't been winners since '95, and Debo's my guy. We're not going to get into this, but there was this whole weird drama between Debo and apparently he thought Cam Newton. Turned out that some Seahawks fans with no lives got his number and catfished him and got them to pretend he was Cam Newton. In his defense, there's only one person in the world that would text like Cam Newton, so I do see why he thought it was Cam Newton. But it is like it's like what are those fucking daytime TV reality shit, like the soap opera. It's like a soap opera almost. Yeah. Like every day on social media, the 49ers are doing something crazy. Somebody said something stupid. The stories just write themselves, and us as content creators, it's just the easiest job to come on here and talk about it because they just provide constant gold. But all right. We were supposed to do half the show on the Ravens and half the show on the Commanders. We've gone a little longer on the Ravens. That's all right. Let's get into this Commanders game. Some people are calling it the perfect get-right game. I don't know how I feel about that. Washington's got a pretty shitty field. It does worry me. There's a ton of 49ers beat up. I had the injury report pulled up here. Let me share it with you guys because the name, it seems like it's only getting longer. So today, the following players did not practice: Eric Armstead with the foot and knee injury, Aaron Banks with the toe injury, Jair Brown with the knee injury, Ross Dwelley with an ankle injury, Jawan Jennings still with the concussion. This is his second week dealing with that. Jordan Mason with an illness. Christian McCaffrey got a vet day, and Jalen Moore had a concussion as well. And the following players were limited: Oren Burks, knee, Javon Hargrave, hamstring, Deebo Samuel, neck, Ambry Thomas, knee and hand, and Trent with the groin injury. full participants, Danny Gray, Elijah Mitchell, and Brock Purdy. Mike, we started the show saying the 49ers, there was a little less urgency in this Ravens game because they knew it's an AFC opponent. They had a little bit of breathing room. Well, now the breathing room's gone. And unless they want to count on getting help from other teams beating other teams, the easiest way to lock up this number 1 seed and get that bye week is to win this week and win next week. How much does that concern you with the following laundry list of injuries I just read out?
The Niners, with a real game plan, should be able to beat Washington's team with half of their active roster, with half of their starters. I know that sounds disrespectful. Washington, they do have players that are going to be motivated. They're going to be going out there. They're playing for jobs. Ron Rivera will likely not, be the coach next year. And when coaches leave, usually players leave. We saw a mass exodus from the building during the trade deadline. That's how we ended up acquiring Chase Young. Montez Sweat goes to Chicago, if I'm not mistaken. And I expect more of that to happen. They aren't in a position to win. They're looking for a quarterback and all that. So I do think that the Niners should be able to go out there and handle business. I'm not overly concerned about anything. I think there's going to be plenty of Niner fans in the building. I looked up tickets today, and on the home team side, 50-yard line, the second row tickets were only $170. Now, maybe it's because it's New Year's Eve, maybe it's because it's New Year's Eve, and so they aren't expecting a lot of turnout. But that was on a third-party site. That's the resale price. I imagine you can walk into the stadium and get them at the box office significantly cheaper than that. I think Niner fans are going to jump on it from all over the East Coast who don't get to see their team often in person. They're going to have the crowd on their side, and they're going to have a solid game plan here. I'm not too concerned about this game as long as we can run the ball effectively. We should be okay in this one.
Okay, Tony, I'm gonna throw it to you. Did the 49ers offensive line struggles continue? How do you feel about that moving forward this week and next week and into the playoffs, to be honest with you? How concerned are you?
It's concerning. If you're a 49ers fan and say you're not concerned about it, you're just kidding yourself. You're fooling yourself. But I think they can put a unit together, prep them for the whole week, and get them through. I think Trent Williams is going to play. Cole McKivitz will be on the right side. If Aaron Banks can't go, I'm good with Feliciano playing the left guard. You got Brendel in the middle, and now you got Burford at the right side. So it kind of seems like Burford now, again, would be the weakest link, if you will, according to other Niner fans and media and stuff like that. But again, if they stick to what they've done to get them to this point, I don't see it as an issue. I truly don't. Armstead's the biggest question mark on his team. We don't know. I don't think it's his knee. I think it's more of his foot with the plantar fasciitis. So with that being said, they did add Sebastian Joseph Day to the roster, who I think will come in and play a role versus the run defense. And it allows Kinlaw and Givens to go back to the role where they were more successful in that relief role, that part-time role. They're not getting a lot of snaps, so it's not wear and tear on his knee. So they added another depth piece to the puzzle, and I think it's going to help them versus the run on the interior now. Trying to think. Juwan Jennings, if he's out for another week in the concussion protocol, that's Matt, maybe you might know, but isn't that like a major red flag that's 3 weeks now and he still hasn't cleared?
They could just be being cautious. The concussion protocol is they can't move him up until he has 0 symptoms. And by 0 symptoms, even if he wakes up and is like, dang, I got a kink in my neck and it gave me a headache, they're going to be like, no, concussion protocol still. They're going to be extra cautious with that. Just because of all of the, if anybody watched the game tonight, Elijah Moore, was concussed. So recoveries to him because that looked really bad. He had some involuntary movement, but they're going to be extra cautious about that. But there are, even if it's not a long-term concussive issue in terms of damage or, cumulative effect, there still could be, I'm still having light sensitivity, or when I lay down, I'm a little bit nauseous or whatever. I'm not super concerned about that, but it is. I would rather they sit Jennings for this game and give him an extra week to get back for what looks to be, if everything goes the 49ers way, which I expect it to. I don't think they're going to go, obviously, on another multi-game losing streak. That Rams game in week 19 now, I guess, is going to be 18. I don't know. Whatever the week is, 18. Week 18 is going to be a huge one. It's going to be the one that determines whether or not the 49ers get the number 1 seed. So I'd rather have him back for that game, which I think is going to be a much more hotly contested game than this Commanders game. It's a little concerning if he misses, but I'd rather them be more cautious than not.
I agree with you. And look at, CJ Stroud is now just coming off of the concussion protocol, and he missed, I want to say 2.5 weeks or something like that. So I guess everybody's just different. It really is impressive, I guess. And it's not like you have control over it, but Brock Purdy was able to do what he did and come back in like 5 days to clear it. It just really puts that into perspective, what a challenge that was for him.
Real quick, I want to answer this question in the chat because I've seen it. Is CMC going to get the run game and Trent is available? Trent practiced today. He's going to play.
Yeah. He looked good too. He looked good in practice. Didn't look like he was really any setbacks.
And then just Randy Daytona, he's our dude. Now that Purdy had a bad game, isn't it obvious? I just want to address this me personally, and you guys can chime in if you want to. I think the fact that CMC had a good game and Purdy had a bad game and they lost is more indicative that Purdy – it's just proof in the pudding. Everybody's like, why don't running backs or wide receivers or whatever win the MVP? Because they're not the most valuable player to their team. It's clear and obvious that quarterback's the most valuable player on their team.
Yep. Tony, were you saying something?
Yeah, as far as just like the injuries with the offensive line, you asked me about going into the Washington game. There's 2 players on this team that are not going to let the 49ers lose this game. And that's Trent Williams and that's Chase Young. So
that's right. Yeah.
Keep that in your head.
Homecomings.
Yeah.
Homecomings for both players. I'm excited for this game. I think this is as good of an on-the-road get-right game the 49ers could get. I mean, it's like the 32nd ranked defense.
Isn't that a weird phrase, though? Get-right game.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's as good of one as you could ask for, I guess.
I think it's a game where the 49ers should be able to flex their muscles more. But, like, you would hope that no matter who the opponent was, they would try to get right. I don't know. It's just a weird terminology. How do you guys feel about
I think it's more about building confidence. Like, we're going to go out here and have a good offensive performance. We're going against the worst defense in the NFL, right? Like, this is going to be the game where you're definitely not throwing 4 picks, Brock Purdy. Don't worry, Sam Darnold. You're not going to throw one either. So it's like this is the game where, we can really go out there and work on, maybe they even try some of the passing plays and concepts that didn't work for them and say, this is what we can do different, and I think that's more about what the get right is. I don't think it's about the final score. It's like, all right, guys, like, let's show that we can do what we do. And they might take their foot off the gas in the second half. It could be like the Thursday night game that's on today, right? Like 34 points in the first half and like, all right, let's just chill. And then they've scored 3 points since then. It's a minute left in the game and they've scored 3 points since then. But it would still count to me as a get right game, getting that confidence back. And by the way, I don't think the Niners even lost much confidence, but I do think that maybe for the fans' sake, they need to see a little bit of a dominant stretch during the course of this game.
Do you think that this is one of those, because we've heard about these sessions before, right? Do you think that in the team meeting when they go over film, you think Kyle, for the most part, is just like, all right, we got to trash this shit? Like, we're just going to throw a lot of this. Like, in terms of not necessarily individual plays where things can be learned from, but as a whole, like, hey, guys, don't take too much out of that game. That was, like, probably the worst game that we're going to play. Like, we just got to clean up, whatever. Like, I think the concepts were solid. I think that there were just some misfortune. It's kind of what I'm talking about. Not like Kyle's going to scrap the jailbreak screen because somebody tipped the pass, right? Like, I think he's still going to use it. I just think that, do you think he goes in there and tells them, hey, like, the results weren't what we wanted, but this was solid if we can just clean this up?
I mean, I personally think there was still plenty to learn from the film, especially for some of the guys whose number had to be called. Like, hey, yeah, right. The offensive linemen, the secondary guys, right? Like we were dealing with some injuries back there as well. I do think that there's some key things to take away from this game that we could definitely improve on. So I'm hoping that they don't just say, we're not going to worry too much about this. Every game in the league is important, and if for nothing else, a learning experience. So they should dissect this film and say, look, if this guy did this different, run that route this way. Let's just say it was the Kittle route for the first interception or whatever, right? Like, hey, Kittle, this is why route running is important. You gotta make sure you get to your keys. If it was Debo rounding off the route instead of cutting hard, right? Like, this is why the route running is important. This is what we try to tell you. Like, these are the things that you got to work on. So hopefully they don't just say, hey, don't worry about it. Like, we're okay.
Do you think that they're gonna, like, I don't know. I guess it's going to be the details, right? Like the offensive line stuff. Kittle not catching a pass with his shoulder pad rather than putting his hands out. I understand that. I'm just talking about at a macro level. On a micro level, they're going to look at things, right, and want to adjust. I think at a macro level, this would be the type of game where it's like, don't look at the result in terms of as this game was not a referendum on who we are as a team, all things being equal. It's got to be one of those, like Zach said, and like I've said before, like that Murphy's Law thing. Anything that could have gone wrong did go wrong. Just put that shit out of your mind. Don't let it affect you. It's on to the next. We're moving on because we're not going to play another game like that.
What do you think, Tony?
I don't know. I just saw something on TV that made me sick to my stomach, but whatever. I think definitely if you're talking about the film session, I think, listen, it was definitely a coaching session. You have to show them where the mistakes were, where if you did this, this would have happened. If you would have did that, that would have happened. But ultimately, it was just a mess. Clearly the luck wasn't there. The ball wasn't bouncing in their favor. Okay. Brock Purdy has 3 interceptions going into halftime, and the 49ers are down by 4 points, getting the ball coming out of the half. Okay, like, I'm in my head saying, bro, we're going to win this shit. It's over. Right? But no, like, the luck was just not, I don't know. But you make your coaching points, you show the film, and then you say, it's behind us. Let's move on. But you still have to show the flaws, what went wrong, how it went wrong. And then you prep for your next team. And they're going to be traveling. What's today? Thursday, Friday. They're probably going to travel Friday because it's a 1:00 game on a Sunday. It's an early game. So they're probably going to leave Friday night to come to Washington, take a red eye, and then sleep and then get their bodies, whatever. But I just think right now there's too many veterans on this team. There's too many guys that have been to the dance, have been in big games, been in the playoffs, deep into the playoffs, some guys to the big dance. And the experience in that locker room, I trust what's in that locker room. And to be honest with you, I said this to Mike before the Philadelphia game. I said, Mike, I bet you $20. John Lynch comes down in that locker room before the game and just rips everybody and just flips tables. He's a former player. And listen, it could be happening. That could be happening in this stretch. Because if you want that crap game that we just lost, now's the time to get it out. Now you got your 2 games to get you in that number 1 spot. You lock down for a week. Everyone gets their treatment, get their bodies up to par. You prep and you make your run because it's a lot easier to win 2 than 3 to get to the dance. So, it is what it is. They're going to be ready for this team. This team's going to be ready. I trust Kyle. I trust this team. I trust the leadership on this team. Guys are approaching the end of their career that want a ring. So now that's like a different mentality now. So, talking about the injuries, Jair Brown's got a knee issue. You got Logan Ryan coming in. Logan Ryan's been in Super Bowls. He knows what it takes. So it's not like you're putting in a Joe Schmo. Yeah, he's a little bit up in age. Yeah, they pulled him off the street, but the guy's experienced. So that's what you want at this point going into this push. I expect him to go into Washington, business trip, get on the plane, eat your Chick-fil-A, do what you got to do, come back, and you prep for the Rams in the final game of the year. And that's the way.
Hey, bro, Chick-fil-A closed on Sundays.
No, they on Saturdays. I
know. I'm just messing with you. I agree. I think this is the refocus, right? This is all right. Home stretch. We had a bad one. Let's refocus because the 49ers, let's be real. Regardless of what Fred Warner said on his podcast, this team absolutely needs the first seed and that bye week. With Eric Armstead now Jair Brown with the knee sprain, for health purposes, I think it would be a good idea for them to have that bye week. Interestingly,
we didn't need it. Oh, sorry.
He said he doesn't care about it, and that
he said he doesn't care about it.
Whenever,
and they
wherever.
absolutely should care and do need it. I think he's trying to play off the loss. I think that's, like a too cool for school response, right? Like where it's like you didn't get something that you wanted and you're like, I didn't want that shit anyway. Yeah. I think that's kind of the attitude. And that is what it is. It's just somebody talking off the cuff. I'm not going to, it's not like Grant Cohn being out there saying that Brock Purdy got benched this week, which is just wild, but whatever. I do think that they absolutely need that first round bye. And I think it starts here. And interestingly enough, no Sam Howell for this game. The Washington Commanders came out and said that Jacoby Brissett is going to be the starter. How do you guys feel about that? Zach, how do you feel about that, man?
I feel like I would rather have Sam Howell back there. He's been like the worst quarterback based on a ton of statistics. He could throw for a ton of yards, but he's going to get picked off a handful of times. He's really taken a step back, which is kind of unfortunate because I really liked him and I thought he was going to take a big step forward this season. I liked him in Washington. I thought it was a good fit. I thought Eric Bieniemy going over there would really elevate his career. That hasn't happened. But at the same time, I don't know how much of that is like Ron Rivera breaking him and ruining him as a player. But Jacoby Brissett's a veteran, like he can get the job done. If Jacoby Brissett was in New England, they're probably winning like 8 to 10 games, in my opinion. So I would much rather be seeing Sam Howell. We have Jacoby Brissett. He's respectable. In my opinion, he's like maybe less athletic Gardner Minshew. Like he could still sling it. He could still fit the ball in tight spaces. He might make a couple mistakes, but he can play. He can play. He's no bum. What do you think, Mike?
Not worried about Jacoby at all. I'm sorry, not one single bit. And maybe, I haven't seen him with Eric Bieniemy, calling the shots for him. Maybe he looks completely different than what I recall, but nothing about him puts any kind of fear or hesitation in my heart. I think the Niners go out there and take care of business against him. And I'm looking forward to, correct me if I'm wrong, but the defense has now given us 2 scores in 2 games, right? Like safety and then the pick 6 the week before that. I would not be surprised if the defense scored again, start their own little streak of defensive scores where, the defense was so good all year long. It's like, come on, give us a point. Like that was the one thing the Cowboys fans were like hanging over our head. They were scoring so much for their team. Now it's like, all right, now it's our turn. I'd rather flip that switch now heading into the postseason instead of losing it heading into the postseason. So yeah, give me a pick 6.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get into this offensive and defensive MVP predictions since it's getting a little late here. Tony, I know you're not usually on this show, so we appreciate you having you. We each take a turn picking our offensive and defensive MVP predictions in case you haven't seen it. So I'll go first. I'm going to go with the offense. I'm going to go with George Kittle. I'm leaving. I wanted to take Brock, but I'm going to go with George. He needs 9 receiving yards to be the 49ers' second 1,000-yard receiver this season. Clearly, he's going to get that. Probably get that on his first catch. The way he averages, 14 yards of reception or some crazy number with Brock slinging it. I'm going to go George Kittle. I think he has another big game. People forget he had like 93 yards in the first quarter last week. Like he was balling. I'm going to go George Kittle, 148 yards and 2 touchdowns. Mike, who do you got?
I'm going to go with Christian McCaffrey. I feel like it's low-hanging fruit. But I don't know what numbers he needs to accomplish anything or anything like that. I just feel like this is a game where we got away from the run. I think he had 14 carries, if I'm not mistaken, in the last game. I think Kyle's going to keep his legs fresh, and they did say that it wasn't due to like injury or anything like that. So I think he's going to come out. He'll get his 17, 18 to 20 carries in this game. Christian McCaffrey. If I had to give him a stat line, let's go with 19 carries, 160 62 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Yeah.
Tony, who do you got?
I'm going to go, being that you guys are putting up those numbers and statistics, I'm going to go with the 49ers offensive line in the statement game to get this offense back on track. And I think they're going to have a damn good game. If you're putting up those numbers like you guys are saying, I think the Niners are going to – I think they get back to the 30 points again.
Clean
so I'll go
sheet.
with the O-line.
All right. Matt.
Listen, everybody wants to talk about 4 interceptions. Listen, you guys want 4? I'll give you 4. Brock Purdy, all right? He's going to throw for 444 yards and 4 touchdowns. He's going to light up this Commanders defense. It's going to be easy pickings, multiple deep balls. He's going to insert himself right back into that regular season MVP award. And then all of the Nick Wrights and the Joy Taylors and the Grant Cohns and everybody who wants to be a hater and a doubter and whatever can go kick rocks. Okay, Brock Purdy, 444 yards and 4 touchdowns. Let's go.
Let's go. I love that. All right. Defensive MVP predictions. I'm going to go with Fred Warner. I think he feels like maybe he didn't have his best game Monday night. I got to imagine he feels a little bad about not being the best defensive player stepping on that field, not looking like it. So I'm going to go Fred Warner and Mike in your spirit. Pick 6. I think he gets one. And he's going to have a couple sacks too. I think Fred's going to be all over the place. 10 tackles, pick 6, sack and a half. Mike, what do you got?
All right. Defensive MVP here. I'm going to go with Chase Young. I feel like I'm taking some easy ones here, but his homecoming, so to speak, to the team that drafted him and then felt like he wasn't worth keeping around or extending. He's got something to prove out there. I'm going to say Chase Young goes out there, 2.5 sacks, batted pass, and a forced fumble. Almost Matt stat line for a Nick Bosa prediction, but I'm going to give it to our guy, Chase Young, man. Let's go.
Okay. Tony.
I'm going to go. I'm going to go with Diamador Lenore. I think they're going to go after Diamador Lenore. I think they're going to try to put McCullen on him. And I think Diamador Lenore is going to have a game.
Okay.
That's what I think.
I like it. Matt.
You know, I've been making these defensive picks for the last couple of weeks, and there's just something inside that just doesn't feel quite right. It just feels weird the way that I've been making these picks. So, Nick Bosa, 3 sacks and a forced fumble. Let's go. I don't even give a shit that it's happened. Let's make it happen again. Nick Bosa, 3 sacks and a forced fumble. Mark it down.
Let's do it.
Meet the quarterback, baby. Meet me there. Let's go.
Yep. You know, I was watching Hard Knocks, and I heard, I think it was Duke Riley. He said, "Don't meet me there, beat me there." And I'm like, oh, shit. Okay, I like that. Don't meet me there, beat me there. So
you guys did a bunch of picks, bunch of touchdowns, bunch of
that's right.
Forced fumbles. Are we hanging a 50 burger this week or what?
Well, we'll save that.
Bro, wait till you get to my final score.
Yeah, we'll get to the final score predictions.
Oh shit!
Before we do, we got to thank today's sponsor, which I'm going to do it live here. Mybookie, Mybookie.AG, promo code Hive. This is the second to last week of the regular season, so go take advantage. I was a couple of touchdowns away from hitting like a 17 grand parlay. Okay, maybe more than a couple. I was about 4 short, but that's okay because the odds are there and it's exciting every single week. I did win about $80 Monday night. If Christian McCaffrey would have scored that first touchdown, I would have made about $470. But that's the excitement of all of this. There are extra emotions that come with watching a game. You got a couple bucks on that might pay out. Christmas just happened. Maybe you need to recoup some funds in your bank account. Mybookie.ag. They will match your deposit all the way up to $1,000. Go take advantage right now. Final 2 weeks of the NFL regular season, and then we get into the playoffs. So right now, go take advantage. Again, Mybookie.ag, promo code Hive. All right, final score predictions. I will go first. Yeah, we saw a couple weeks ago the 49ers put up the season high 45 against the Cardinals. I think they top it. I'm going to say 56-22
Jeez.
49ers. I think Kyle's going to try and get to 70 like Mike McDaniel did, and he's going to fall a little short, but that's because Sam Darnold can't do it in relief. Mike, what do you got?
I like how you had the caveat in there because Sam Darnold can't do it because he did score some more points.
Yeah.
With the backup quarterback and running back out there. So good call there. I'm gonna give a score prediction of 42-9. 42-9. The Niners go out there and put a rout on that Washington Commanders team.
Washington almost puts up as much as Dallas. Look at that. 1 point shy of what Dallas put up against us. Good for them. Tony, what do you got?
I'm going to go. I usually don't do this. I'm going to go 38-17.
Okay.
Oh, my God.
Right.
Someone just took that?
That's pretty close. 38-13.
Holy shit. No, 38-17. That's crazy.
Matt, what do you got?
Listen, I think all things are going to come up 49ers this week. I have the 49ers in an absolute drubbing of the Commanders, 49-0. 49-0.
Oh, all right.
Shut them out.
Let's do it. All right. I have a chat pack card already picked. It's a good one. You guys are going to like it. What is one piece of advice that you wish you could pass along to everyone else? And chat, please feel free to comment your answers in the chat as well. What is one piece of advice that you wish you could pass along to everyone else?
Never accept criticism from someone you wouldn't ask for advice.
I like that.
If you don't respect somebody's opinion to ask them about what you should do, then don't let them tell you what you should do, whether that's, whatever the case may be. Just brush it off. Don't let it bother you. If that person is not somebody that you would choose to seek out for advice, they can say whatever they want. Don't let it affect you because obviously their opinion doesn't mean shit.
I like that. I would say only focus and I wouldn't say stress, but if you're going to stress about anything, only stress about the things that you have direct control over, because there's no point in worrying over something that you have no control over. It's either going to happen or it isn't. And why stress yourself out in the meantime, waiting for that thing to happen or not happen? If you have direct control over it, then make it happen or stop it from happening, depending on whatever the hell you want. But if you have no control over it, then what's the point? You're just adding extra pressure into your life that you don't need. Mike, Tony, what do you got?
I'm going to go with find joy in simple pleasantries. I think that if I think the world would be a better place if people didn't need big things to make them feel good, So if you could just sit down for just 10 minutes and be like, my house isn't burning down. People are healthy right now. It's a good day. I think the world would be a better place. So find the joys in simple pleasantries.
Solid. Tony?
Mine's simple. Mine's just never give up because life will throw you curveballs. If you let it get to you, just never give up. I teach my son never give up. He says it with everything he does. He gets upset with something. And I say, what does daddy say? He goes, never give up. Exactly. That's my biggest thing. My biggest motivational speech, though, is probably the one from Rocky when he's talking to his son in front of the restaurant in the last one. I don't know. I'm not good with it.
It's about. It's not about how hard you get hit. It's about getting up or something like that, right? Like life is going to throw punches at you. It's going to beat you down. It's going to beat you to your knees.
Yeah.
But it's about getting back up and.
It's not how hard you get hit. It's how hard you can get hit without giving.
Keep going or something.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah.
That's my thing. I can't remember it.
I keep thinking of that brisk iced tea commercial when I think about Rocky. Right? It's over, Rock. It's never over. I just need something to drink.
Randy says
he takes a little tea. It's the claymation. He's like, yo, that's brisk, baby.
Randy says never date a person with a scorpion neck tattoo. It seems very specific, so
That's a never.
She hurt
never
him.
Stick, that's a never stick your dick in crazy. I've heard that before too.
Yeah. That's like beware of glory holes. Dude, I saw a video of Jerry Jones talking about, did you see that video? He's at a press conference and he goes, I've been here for a long time. So I've been here, for these days, and I've been here for the glory hole days. And we definitely need some more of those glory holes. And he clearly wasn't talking about glory holes, but it's just so fucking.
And you could hear the press trying to maintain composure. They were still laughing at him. That was great. I know exactly what clip you're talking about. It's like, this guy has no idea what he's saying right now. It's hilarious. Absolutely hilarious.
Yeah. All right. With that said, that's going to conclude this episode, guys. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Mike, let the folks know where to find you. I'm sure they already know, but plug everything. Let them know.
Yeah, guys. Start with the Patreon right there at the bottom of the screen, patreon.com/NB9ERS. Head on over there for all of the game day experiences and the live action, some bonus content over there as well every week. And then if you guys don't know already, head over to the YouTube page, youtube.com/nothing-but-niners, spelled all the way out. It's a lot of fun. We're doing shows now. I figured out how to link it to the IG, so we're live on Instagram when we do the shows as well. Thanks to StreamYard. Shout out to them. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, man. But that's where you want to be.
Okay, all right, Tony. Thank you for joining us. We got to have you back on. Anything you want to plug? Anything you want to shout out?
I'm not plugging. Follow Nothing But Niners. Follow you guys. All the content creators. Just excited to be on. Thank you for the opportunity. Work schedule change, and it's going to change again next week, where I go to midnights after 18 years, but that sucks. But yeah, so just thank you for the opportunity. I had a blast with you guys tonight, and that's pretty much it. Go Niners.
All right. Yeah, man. Thanks for hopping on. Matt, carry us out.
Yeah, listen, not what we wanted on Christmas night, but we're going to turn the page. It's on to Washington. The 49ers still control their destiny. They're in line for the number 1 seed in the NFC. They just got to come out and handle business against Washington. I think that with Ron Rivera on its way out, with them experimenting with a new quarterback, they're ripe for the pickings. I think that the 49ers are going to be motivated to come in and take care of business quickly. They tend to be a little more focused on the road. This looks like a boat race to me. I hope that holds up. We'll find out at 10 a.m. on Sunday. So for Zach, for Mike, for myself, Tony, thank you so much for joining us. You're welcome back anytime. Loved having you here. We loved having everybody in the chat here. Thank you so much for joining us. We love having you as always. And until next time, go Niners.